In today's video, I survived 100 days in Minecraft's newest update, Trails and Tales. In these 100 days, I want to collect every new item, get at least one of the many armor trims, get an army of these new legendary sniffers, and lastly, make a cool base utilizing the new cherry blossom trees. If any of this sounds cool, grab some water and a snack, and let's get into this. Alright, so here we are on day 1. I did find this seed online, so I will throw it up on the screen and in the description if you guys want to play along with me. Why I chose this seed specifically, you will see soon enough. As you can see right now though, one of the reasons is because you spawn right next to one of these gorgeous cherry blossom biomes. After punching a few logs, I went ahead and crafted a wooden pick so I could get us some cobblestone. While doing so, I had a rather rude neighbor who I ended up playing peekaboo with for a while until I got impatient and nearly died while smacking on him. Once that fight was over, I realized my HUD was disgustingly big, so I went ahead and fixed that, and wow, that is so much better. With the new cobble, I made a stone axe, chopped down the rest of that first tree, and borrowed the meat and wool from these sheep because I needed some food and a bed ASAP. After a bit more mining of cobble, I made a furnace and used the old wooden pick to make a piece of charcoal so we could start chefing up some food. I will say I honestly didn't think I was going to care much for these cherry blossom biomes, but the falling leaves and flowers on the ground really do create a really nice vibe. Towards the end of the day, I went exploring in a cave I found and was really just looking for as much coal and iron as possible, and I guess copper, even though you're pretty useless. Oh, I almost forgot. We gotta check some items off the list. The next morning, I left the cave and took the time to smelt down all my iron and cook my last bit of mutton. With all my new iron, I made a shield, axe, pick, bucket, and chest plate, so I now felt much safer exploring caves. Little did I know, cave exploring was about to get interesting. I hopped in this river and started getting myself some fish and accidentally ran into one of the Titanic explorers while doing so. I made my way up to the top of the island, and this really is the main reason I wanted to use a seed. I thought this massive mountain island thing, whatever you want to call it, would be an awesome spot to build a base alongside our army of sniffers that we will eventually get. Now it was time to get back to mining, and while I did find some resources like this emerald, the real highlight came right here. See, when I first started this fight, I thought it was just one single skeleton, and then I came to learn that there was an entire horde of zombies accompanied by a couple snipers. And me being the genius I am, backed myself into a corner and really thought I was dead here, but I was just able to sneak out. The funniest part is the fact that I nearly killed myself from fall damage at the very end here, which would have been incredibly embarrassing. The next 2 days were focused around getting ourselves set up for getting an enchanting setup in the future. This started with me hoeing harder than a sorority girl on her spring break trip to Miami, followed by ironically seeding the hoed dirt. Only difference is that the growth of these plants is actually planned. The next day started with some cooking, followed by bridging across the river so I could attract some cows. Days 5 through 9, I had one goal, and it was a bit of a weird one. Right now, the only trees around me were these cherry blossoms. I like a variety of wood, just like that spring break sorority girl, so I needed to get my 4 favorite types of wood. The first tree I found was, of course, the legendary oak tree, which was right next to my house. Now, the oak tree is kind of like your buddy that you've known for a while, and you know what you're getting with them, and he's not always the most exciting. He doesn't, start all the parties, but, he's a classic. You're always gonna love the guy. Now, before I took off running to find some more trees, I made an extra bed and mined up some coal and cobble so I could cook food on the road if I needed. Soon after that, I found a birch tree, which meant we got the easiest 2 out of the way and got only 2 more to go. Now, the birch tree for me is kind of like that guy at high school who was kind of funny, but also kind of annoying. Like, if you were in the right mood, he was funny, but most of the time you're like, all right, man, we get it. You're trying to be funny. I don't love the birch tree, but maybe I'll use it sometimes. We'll see. And I'll be honest, I'm not too worried about finding a spruce forest, but sometimes I swear dark oak forests don't exist. While looking, I made sure to kill all the animals I could find so I could stock up on food. I'm not going to highlight every time I do it, but if you want a gauge on just how many animals I slaughter, just watch the durability of my axe throughout this adventure. One really good thing that happened on day 6 was me finding sugarcane. Why is this a good thing? Well, I'll be honest, I completely forgot I needed to farm this for paper for the book, so yeah, this was actually really important. For a guy that plays Minecraft for a living, you would really think I wouldn't forget this, but here we are. You'd also think if you play this game for a living, you'd maybe post more than once every 3 months. Yeah, I suck, but hey, I'm gonna fix it. After chopping the tree, I realized that my resource pack made the water way too clear, so I went ahead and fixed that, and this was much better. During some boating, I found a drowned settlement and found a buried treasure map in the chest. The hidden treasure was really close by, and after a couple minutes of digging, I found the treasure. Inside the treasure, it had 3 diamonds, some gold, a good amount of iron, and some potions of water breathing. I'll be honest, I completely forget these potions exist later, but it's kind of a cool find now. There was another drowned building right next to the other one, which once again had a hidden treasure map. It was unfortunately to the same treasure though, so kind of a fail there. After about 30 seconds more of boating, I spotted a ruined portal which got me a gold block, 3 obsidian, and a silk touch pickaxe. And best of all was the fact that a spruce forest was right next to it, meaning we just completed our goal. Now that we had everything, it was time to head home. While getting lost on my way home, I spotted yet another ruined portal. I did unfortunately lose the gold block since my inventory was full. From the chest, I got 3 more obsidian, which was pretty nice because this meant we had to mine less obsidian for another portal, which as we all know takes about 12 years with an unenchanted pick. I'll be honest, I was feeling pretty lost at this point, but remembered that my island was right next to spawn, so I just had to make my way towards coordinate 00. Eventually, I crossed my dirt bridge and found myself at home. Once home, I started cooking up all my meat and realized that I almost collected enough leather to the point I don't even need a cow farm, but at least it'll still be a good food source, so it wasn't a complete waste of time. Next up was planting all these saplings. I wanted to grow a jumbo spruce tree, but didn't want the diarrhea dirt, so I put it up on some cobble, then planted the rest of the saplings. After that, I bred the cows. Once I got some wood to build with, I'll build these guys a nicer place to stay than this dirt hole, I promise. Lastly, on day 9, I made a simple little sugarcane area so we could get all of our paper for the books. My little cobble idea didn't work so good, and now we had an island with some diarrhea dirt on it, which made me sad. The rest of the day was chopping down all the trees that grew and making the new brush, which checked off another item for the video's goal. At this point, I felt like going out mining to hopefully find ourselves some diamonds, but before I did so, I had to do some housekeeping. At the bottom of my island, I found a dripstone cave, and needless to say, I was not welcomed here. After killing this creeper, I found a zombie spawner which had some name tags and gold inside. I honestly hate building massive XP farms because they're ugly and time consuming, so maybe this will be my poverty XP farm, but I don't know, we'll see. These are so much slower. Eventually, I found myself in a massive dripstone cave and needed to find my way down, which just ended up being a water bucket. While mining some iron, I found the entrance to a water cave that led directly out to the original entrance of the cave, which was pretty cool. Ore-wise, I found some gold and redstone before running into a massive chunk of sculk blocks, which happened to be right next to my first vein of diamonds. After that, I found some gold hiding behind more sculk. I honestly bet diamonds are really hard to see under all this shit, which makes me think I'm gonna run right past them at some point, and that's gonna suck. Ah, see, like right there. I swear this was genuine. I literally almost ran past it because they blend in so well with the sculk. That is despicable. Alright, this next clip is really going to expose how little I've played the official Warden update because I had no idea what these did. So when I got afflicted with the darkness, I was shitting my pants, and that's not even a joke. Like, my boxers had a skid mark, okay? I'm not going to lie, it was not pretty. I felt like Cartman in the World of Warcraft episode of South Park, man. It was not a good look. After changing my tidy whities, I spotted another diamond while running around. Then another one, and then another 2. Yeah, fuck you, DJ Khaled. We're not doing another one, okay? I got 2. Get your bread up, buddy. Last noteworthy thing of the trip was this gold and another 1 veiner of diamonds. While digging straight up to escape, I found myself in a submerged cave and realized that I may have been stuck, so I resorted to spamming torches to replenish my breath. And luckily, I was able to find an escape route and made it to shore safely. When I got home on day 13, I threw all the ore in furnaces, farmed up my crops, bred my cows, chopped all the trees, and lastly went over the mining loot, which I was overall pretty happy with. Like I said earlier, I needed to make a nicer area for the cows, so that's exactly what I did for the next 11 days. Day 14 was all flattening the area, which was painfully slow with an unenchanted iron shovel. Day 15 was a lot of trial and error with figuring out how big I wanted to make this shack alongside some more digging. Day 16 was actually the first start of me building. My first design for the front of the build was this, and I was not a fan in the slightest, which meant it was time to restart. I then followed that up with what looked like a tiny Richard, so there's fail number 2. Then to make matters worse, while trying to climb up my build, the falling water led to a massive cow escape, which meant I had to corral them all back into their hole. I tried making another adjustment to the Richard design and it just wasn't ever going to work, let's be honest. No one wants to look at a big dong. Day 17, I took a build break to farm up all my sugarcane, and the good news was that we almost had enough for the books at this point. Here was the next design, and at least at this point it felt like I was getting somewhere. It wasn't just a massive piece. However, my dumb did this again. My final design on day 17 was this, and at this point this is what it was gonna be. I was done and it was good enough, okay? Day 18, I was replicating the roof design on the other side of the build. Once that was done, I grabbed that gold pick with silk touch on it and mined enough stone for a stone cutter. After that was made, I decided to use the rest of the pick on stone because I was lazy and wanted to save on a little bit of coal. With my new stone, I made some stone walls so I could start making the pen areas. I eventually ran out of walls, so while waiting for cobble to smelt, I sectioned out the pen areas. Day 19, I mined a bunch of cobble, smelted it down, made some walls, and slapped them down for the pens. The next morning, I made some lanterns and put them on the outside of the build, which I thought they looked really nice. Then the next 4 days were all focused on making the roof, which was the biggest pain in the ass, so here's a quick montage. The last thing to finish this build off was this strip of wood through the middle to fill in some blank space. Oh, and then I of course moved all the cows into the pen. Day 25, I made some iron axes and then spent the entire day chopping this beautiful cherry blossoms until I had enough wood for a mob farm. Yes, we are making the big ugly one, and yes, we're only using cherry blossoms to check off the goal. Yes, is that kind of cheating? Yes, but I will utilize cherry blossoms in my actual base build, so don't worry, okay? The next 8 days all revolved around building this ugly mob farm. I say this every video, but since I haven't posted in over, well, 3 months at this point, maybe you forgot. I'm not going to show much of this building because it is the mob farm everyone uses, and it is just old at this point. It's just not exciting. I will say though, it's pretty weird building with the pink wood. I had the farm finished up by day 30, and the only thing I needed was some iron to make some hoppers for the bottom. I didn't want to run all the way home, so I just mined in a random cave I found over by where it was, and while mining for the iron, I also found some gold, and more importantly, 2 veins of lapis, which I still needed for the enchanting table. By day 32, I had the hoppers made and placed them at the bottom of the farm, and it was now officially completed. Day 33, I stayed at the farm till level 30 and then went home. Once I was home, I made books and then used those books to make bookshelves. After that, I made an enchanting table, diamond pickaxe, and stone swords to use at the farm. Day 34, I made a grindstone, some extra books for cycling enchants, and then ran back to the farm. That was the one drawback of this farm, since I had to put it in an ocean. It took a long time to get there. Once at the farm, I threw down the enchanting area and enchanted level 1 books until I got a fortune 3 enchant on the pick. Normally this takes me forever, so the fact that I got it within 4 enchants was really nice. I sat till the end of the day till I hit level 30 and enchanted the pick, which got a bonus efficiency 4 on it. Days 35 through 39, I decided I wanted to utilize my new fortune pick and try to get some diamond. When I went mining, I found the first diamond pretty quick, and alright, not the best start, but the main goal of this trip is only diamonds, so that's what I'll show you, and if any other crazy stuff happens, well, you'll see it. I found another one banner by some skulk, and fortune actually worked this time. What the actual f***, dude? This thing is supposed to basically print me diamonds, and it ain't working. I picked a fight with an enderman, and I always forget how hard these guys hit if you don't have good armor on. Like, it's actually kind of terrifying when you get in a fight with one. Right here, I got covered in more butter than the certified baddie's bowl of popcorn. During a fight with a skeleton, my shield broke, which is going to end up getting me in some trouble later. 2 days in, only 4 diamonds, and well, that's not a good start, boys, I'm not going to lie. While mining some iron, I found an underwater cave, and that was really freaking cool. Some more diamonds, and some more failed fortune. While looking for more, I found myself in quite the predicament, and thanks to the slowest walling in the history of Minecraft, I somehow survived. I found another 2-baner, and finally my fortune decided to work on one of the diamonds. Can we get 2 in a row? Oh, well, it was worth a shot. Do we get it again? After that last diamond, I stumbled onto an ancient city, and after getting slapped with darkness again, I decided it was probably a good idea to just get out and come back later, because if a warden spawns right now, I'm not going to have a good time. Finally, on day 39, I mined vertically to make it back to the surface, and while doing so, ran into an abandoned mineshaft. I ran around for a while, and the only thing of note I found was this chest, which really only had a name tag and some torches. Once home, I threw all the mining loot in the chest, and I gotta say, that was a pretty successful mining trip. To end the day off, I made some blast furnaces and started smelting all the raw ore. The next set of days was solely focused on building a house to actually live in, because right now my cows had a better living situation than I did. Starting off, I had to expand the dirt area, then it was time to make the base foundation, and some of you may recognize this foundation because I am pretty sure this is like one of the most classic Minecraft houses. When I was a kid, my older brother always built this house, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever, so this build's a little nostalgic for me, and I do add a little bit of my own flair to it, I guess you could say, so it's not a complete copy, but just for clarification's sake, I was following a build tutorial on YouTube, which I don't normally do, but again, nostalgia sounded fun. Once the foundation was in, I built out the pillars and went ahead and connected them all. After that, I put in the front door and started filling in the walls of the house. After completing the bottom floor, it was time to do the second story walls. Following the walls was putting in the roof and the windows inside, and finally the house was complete. Yes, this looks awful, don't worry though, because once we get the detailing on the walls, it will look 1,000 times better. And once you see the difference, you'll really understand the importance of depth in a build. When day 52 rolled around, I realized that I still needed to get an army of these guys, which meant I needed to go find some sussy sand. So after replacing the doors of the house with oak doors, it was time to start exploring. The main goal of this trip was to find a warm ocean biome so we could find some ocean ruins which have that sussy sand. A bonus find for this trip would be to also find some bamboo, since we still need to complete our challenge for getting all the new blocks from update 1.20. While searching, I found a ruined portal that had some awful loot and no exposed gold block. However, I did grab some magma blocks so I could breathe underwater if needed. Day 54, I found myself in a village, and the only notable thing was this blacksmith loot. Villages aren't going to be super important for this video, but if I possibly return to this in a survival series, it could be helpful for sure. If you guys want to see that, let me know. Kind of interested in starting a series, I think it'd be fun. Right next to the village was a jungle biome which had some bamboo in it, so at least we've completed our bonus objective for this trip. By day 55, I had finally found a warm ocean biome, and now this search had begun. While searching, I found a shipwreck that loot-wise wasn't all too exciting. However, the same night we found our first ruin, and from the very first sussy sand, we got a sniffer egg. The second sand gave us a piece of a pot, which was good for the new items goal. Our third was a fail, and the fourth sand gave us a brand new iron axe, which was honestly kind of nice. The fifth and sixth sands gave us a piece of coal, and the last sniffer egg we needed. I honestly thought this was going to take way longer to find 2 sniffer eggs since they only have about a 6% drop rate, but here we are. I'm not complaining. I found one last ruin, which gave me another pot shard, and now it was time to head home, which was gonna be quite the trek. During our trip back home, I found another ruined portal, which had 2 gold blocks, so I guess that made up for the last one. Last thing I note from running back was just the fact that I did some population control of wild animals. Once home, I combined 2 of the animal stalls to give the sniffers more space and then place the eggs down. The very last thing that happened on this set of days was the Squidward looking raiding my house while I was just minding my own business. It's the easiest 1v5 pentakill in my life. Get wrecked, you dweebs. I put too much time into this house for it to be this ugly, so for the next 6 days I was focused on giving this thing a better facelift than Simon Cowell. Is that his name? Whatever his name is, you know who I'm talking about. Like, what are we doing, man? Off track. Anyways, to do this, I was going to need a lot of these cherry blossom leaves and wood. Again, for this build, I followed a guide because I thought the creator did an amazing job, so all the props for the build, once again, goes to them. I just want to make it really clear so no one thinks I'm like stealing it. It's in the description if you want to follow it, okay? It's awesome. The detailing was pretty consistent for the outside. It was basically just a lot of slabs, trapdoors, leaves, and lanterns. And here was the final result. Needless to say, it was looking way better. Now in a little bit, we are going to do the interior alongside the outside of the house, make it look even better. but for now I was pretty happy. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, while building on day 60, I went to check on these sniffers and they had hatched and escaped the enclosure, so I decided to box them both up in cherry blossom leaves until they grew up. I know, I'm a great parent, thank you. Now the actual reason I boxed them up is because I couldn't actually lure them yet until they were adults and could find me a torch seed so I could actually guide them back into their home. Day 64, I made a bunch of bamboo blocks so I could then make the bamboo planks, bamboo mosaic, and bamboo raft, which checked all the bamboo items off of our list. Now just for clarification, I'm not going to do all the variations of like doors, trap doors, stairs, slabs, all that. That's just getting ridiculous. I just did the main big blocks. Hopefully you understand. If you don't, well, I'm sorry. Don't hate me. That being said, I did make some bamboo trapdoors and they looked awesome, so I went ahead and added them to the front porch. Our sniffer guy over here was fully grown, so I followed his big ancient butt around until he dug me up a pitcher pod. I then went and dug out the other sniffer, who I'm gonna call Jeffrey, and after following Jeffrey around, we got yet another pitcher pod, which was actually bad because, once again, I can't lure them without the torch flower seeds, so these pitcher pods are just kind of useless. The next 3 days were all focused on enchanting our armor because my goal soon was to get an elytra, so getting an armor trim will be a lot easier because we can travel the world quicker and then search all of the natural spawning structures quicker. My strategy in doing this was to cycle level 1 enchants on books until I saw a protection 4 enchant showing on each piece of armor. The first piece of armor I enchanted was the chest, which fortunately also got unbreaking with it. And then it was basically just rinse and repeat until I got protection on everything. I did end up settling for protection 3 on both my helmet and boots, mainly because I was getting really bored at the mob farm and just wanted to move on. Once I got home from the mob farm on day 68, the sniffer had a torch flower seed waiting for me, which meant I could lure him back to his nice pen. Thankfully, Jeffrey, being the good sniffer he is, was right next to the pen, so it wasn't quite as painful. The next morning, I got some pitcher pods and went ahead and planted them. After that, I ran over and mined some more obsidian so I could go ahead and build a nether portal. Before lighting it, I went in and checked on these sniffers, and one of them had found my torch seed, which meant I could now breed them and really start making our army here. Now it was time to enter the nether, except I basically left right away to make spare pickaxes and axes since my tools were pretty beat at this point. Oh, and I also farmed up the sugarcane since I was going to need paper for my rockets once we get an elytra. My first initial day in the nether was actually quite eventful because about halfway through it I found a bastion, which meant we had a chance at getting the netherite upgrade template, which we of course needed for our list. Looking at the weak queue, each chest had a 10% chance, so hopefully we could get lucky here. To get inside, I had to take care of a couple oinkers. The first chest got us a golden apple and some food, which wasn't quite what we were looking for, but still not too bad. I made my way further into the bastion and walled off this segment just to play it safe and eventually earn myself this gold block. I snuck to another chest and got another gold block alongside a diamond shovel. After that chest, I started playing Ring Around the Rosies and eventually stumbled into another chest room which had the smithing template. This was huge because, well, now I could leave this place. It also had a diamond pick with Curse of Vanishing on it, which fortunately doesn't really affect us since we're playing hardcore. Granted, I can't enchant this pickaxe since it has the curse, but still a free diamond pick. Now that I had the netherite smithing template checked off the list, it was time to leave, but people just love me so much that they fight for me to stay these days. Honestly, it really makes me feel special, I can't lie. Day 71, I started playing cricket with a ghast. Granted, I don't know how cricket even works. I was once in a Taco Bell with my buddy and we were talking about it somehow. We looked up highlights on YouTube for 10 minutes and literally could not figure out the rules of the game. After my cricket match though, I saw a nether fortress in the distance, which meant it was time to bridge over, and while bridging over I witnessed a wholesome father-son moment between these two striders. Eventually I bridged over to the fortress and it was time to break in. Honestly, nothing too exciting here, so I'm gonna give you a quick rundown. I feel like I say this every time, but like, I don't want to waste your time, you know, so let's just keep it moving. I picked up some nether wart for brewing if I decide to do so, killed a few wither skeletons, which unfortunately didn't give me any wither skulls, and eventually found a blaze spawner and stayed until I got 20 blaze rods, which without looting actually took quite a while. Once that was done, it was time to head home. However, right next to the portal, there was one of these biomes that spawn a million endermen, so I sat there and farmed up a total of 11 ender pearls. Now, I probably should have got more to be safe, but I was just so sick of trying to traverse this weirdly vertical biome. It was a pain. The next 2 days, I did some maintenance and prepping for going to the end so we can get ourselves an elytra. Starting off, I evicted all the cows and expanded the area for the sniffers so they wouldn't run out of blocks to search. From my very basic understanding, they need like at least 20 blocks to search or something like that. I don't know. You guys are smarter than me. If you could break it down for me in the comments, that'd be great. After that, I made myself a bow and made my way over to the mob farm so we could get a nice enchanted bow. Unfortunately though, I am dumb and completely forgot my lapis, so I had to run all the way back home. Near my dirt bridge, there was a gang of skeletons hanging out, and I noticed that my house actually looked awesome from the distance, which made me really happy. To make things even better, while grabbing my lapis, a creeper came over and blew up my chest, which sucked. When I did get back to the mob farm, I got a power 4 unbreaking 3 bow, and decided to enchant another bow since I had the levels. My second bow had flame and power 4 on it, meaning I could combine them to basically make a god bow, and I did exactly that when I got home. Yeah, we're going there. The last thing I did on this day was picking up some pitcher pods from our ancient friends here, and I'm gonna be honest, they are completely selling because if I'm gonna make this army, I need torchflower seeds, and they keep giving me the useless pitcher pod. I mean, the flower is kind of pretty, but just not what I need. The goal for the next set of days was to get to the end, kill the ender dragon, and get an elytra, so I of course started with throwing an eye of ender. Luckily, our second eye didn't break. However, I couldn't say the same about the third one. While searching, I found our 12th ruined portal at this point. I don't know why there's so many on this seed, but there are. And this one gave me golden carrots and 2 gold blocks. By day 78, I had pinpointed where the stronghold was and made my way down, getting lucky enough to mine into the portal room. Right when I got in the room, I was surrounded by a bunch of silverfish, which were really hard to kill with just an axe. I never realized how nice it is to have that sweeping edge on a sword. Before entering the end, I did want to see if I could find a library in here since they are guaranteed to have an armor trim in them, so I figured I might as well check. While searching, I found a zombie spawner attached to the stronghold, which had a golden apple inside alongside a name tag. Eventually, I actually did find the library, and after doing some water parkour, I got an armor trim template, which was awesome. Once I had that, I made my way back to the portal room and placed the ender eyes in. When I entered the end, I kind of spawned in an awkward spot far from the island and was forced to do a super awesome gamer MLG water bucket save over the void. Once I was actually on the main island, it was time to join FaZe Clan. After shooting out all the crystals, I started laying into the dragon until it knocked me off, and if I hadn't scaled the tower using a water bucket, I honestly would have died here. So we got really lucky. Then it was time to snipe, and boy did I struggle with this. Luckily though, when the dragon goes to perch, it becomes really hard to miss, like even for me, so I got some good damage here, and once actually perched, I smacked it in the face and eventually bowed the dragon down, earning us a ton of XP. When I went to ender pearl into the mini portal, I got super lucky and got put into the crawling position rather than falling straight into the void. If this was like old 1.12 Minecraft or, any time before the crawling update, whenever that was, we would have just lost the world. So, yeah, thank you, Mojang. When trying to find the end city, it was a whole lot of enderman farming, mining endstone, and chucking ender pearls. Not too much later, I spotted an end ship in the distance. Once I made it to the end city, I climbed it using a water bucket and built up and ender pearled onto the ship. I cleared the protecting shulker, looted the chest, which had another armor trim and some diamond pants. Then I finally grabbed the elytra we had come all this way for. Now, since I'm a genius, I didn't bring any rockets to use for the elytra, so I went ahead and utilized the shulker levitation to give me height to glide back to spawn. Was this really risky? Yes. And I'll be honest, I was starting to think I wasn't going to make it spawn because I could literally see nothing. However, I eventually did and chucked my last ender pearl to get us back on the island and then hopped into the portal. And being even more honest, when I, first started gliding towards spawn, I didn't think I would actually make it all the way to spawn. I figured I'd see some islands on the way there and just ender pearl to one of those. But I didn't. and we got lucky, so I guess winning? Apparently there was some XP inside the portal because once I spawned back into my world, I was the greatest level of all time. I went and checked on my Sniffer friends and found that my kid finally grew up. Of course, with our luck though, it just found another pitcher pod. Fun fact, it's supposed to be a 50-50 chance, and as we've seen, it has been far from that so far. I think that's our 4th or 5th pitcher pod in a row, which is either a 6 or 3% chance of happening respectively, which means, well, we're getting screwed over. Next up, I made a bunch of rockets for the elytra, but I now just realized that I didn't really need my elytra anymore since I no longer needed to check generated structures for armor trim since we now had 2 of them, but this elytra is still going to be useful because we had some traveling to do for some building blocks soon. The rest of this time was putting in the dark oak flooring for the house and chopping dark oak trees. I ended up putting 3 total floors in the house, with the 3rd basically being a little attic. Days 83 through 85 primarily focused on fleshing out the interior of the house, because right now we just had an empty box. Now before I started that, I made sure to take out this hideous diarrhea tree holder and the surrounding dirt because it was just tanking my home's property value worse than the 2008 housing crisis, which is not a good look. Step 1 of the interior was making a staircase so we could actually reach the 2nd floor of the house. The staircase was really simple, with just being a 2-way entrance into the 2nd floor. I decided I wanted to make a little secret chest room under each of the staircases using the age-old painting trick, but struggled for about 5 minutes trying to figure out how to do it again. Eventually I realized that I needed to place a 2nd sign down, and now we had ourselves a secret compartment. Once the first one was in, I went ahead and repeated the process on the other side of the staircase for symmetry's sake. Then all I had to do was put the chest in. When I went back and checked on my Sniffers, they had found me 2 torchflower seeds, which let me breed them once again, and I went ahead and put down their egg. On day 84, I put in some more public chests for storage and then put in some archways downstairs. After that, I went upstairs and made a 3-wide bed to make sure I had room in it to kiss all the homies goodnight like any good friend does. Next up was putting in a ladder to reach the attic, followed by putting in a work area that sort of looked like a kitchen, I guess. I honestly didn't have much of a plan for this, but the stairs in between made everything look really nice to me, so I was pretty happy. All of day 85 was basically transporting all the loot from outside into the house with all of our valuables in one of our secret chests. I like how I call them secret chests when everyone knows about the false wall trick, but let's just pretend. Day 86 was not fun in the slightest. I went to check on my Sniffers once again, and lo and behold, nobody was home outside of one of the kids. Sniffers are slow, but I'll tell you what, they're doing a great job at speedrunning a visit from CPS by leaving their kid home alone. Thankfully, one of the Sniffers found a torchflower seed for me, so that let me lure everyone back home. But wow, is this a painfully slow process. The next day, I flew over to the mob farm to enchant a diamond shovel, which ended up being a god tier shovel. The only thing I would have changed was trading out fortune for silk touch, but I couldn't really complain. After that, I realized I needed to get unbreaking 3 on my elytra, so I flew home, grabbed some books, flew back to the mob farm, and cycled the books until I got unbreaking 3. After that, I flew back home once again and put it on the elytra, which thanks to basically today alone was half broken. The following 8 days were all focused on building a couple of ponds outside my house. Step 1 for the 2 ponds was making the circular outline using these deep slate tiles. Once the outline was in, I started excavating the inside portion where the water would actually be. Now I made sure to make everything 1 block deep so it'd be easier to fill it all in with water, and then I can just mine straight down to make it deeper. After digging, I went over and checked on the Sniffers and breeded them once again. Then it was time to fill in the water. I finished filling in the first pond and repeated the process on the second one. Day 89, I needed to travel to the ocean to get some kelp and sand, so I made a bunch of rockets and flew over to an ocean. And I'm sorry, but this has to be one of the most satisfying things in Minecraft. Like, there's no debate. While farming the kelp, I learned that the easiest way to collect it is to not break it from the bottom, but to instead break it from the top so you don't have to gather it all at the top of the surface. Next thing I did was find a swamp, which was awesome since now I could grab some lily pads for the pond as well. The rest of day 89 and 90 consisted of digging out all the dirt and filling in the bottom with sand. Day 91, I put the kelp at the bottom and was pretty happy with this so far, but we still had a ways to go before this was complete. We still needed a bunch of fish to replace the walls and add a secret finishing touch. To fix the fish issue, I made about 30 buckets to go catch fish and made sure to also make a shulker box so I could actually store them all in one trip. Then it was time to head back to the ocean. To start, I caught some cod and followed that up by catching salmon. However, the most important fish were the ones in the warm ocean biomes, so I flew back to one from earlier and caught some tropical fish. Now, Now my main goal in catching these was to make sure I got a wide variety, just so the pond looked real alive and just overall more interesting. And once again, I had the long flight home, which was actually putting a beating on my elytra, which was not ideal. When I got back, my sniffer friends had left me 3 more torchflower seeds, which let me breed them once again. One of them started digging right in front of me, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity to get 1 more torchflower to breed again, but that of course did not happen. Next up was actually putting the fish inside of the pond, and once that was done, the last thing I needed was a bunch of quartz. However, my fortune pick at this point was basically broken, so I went ahead and did the most down bad thing ever and combined it with the curse of vanishing pick, since I only had 1 diamond in my name. Then it was time to do a whole lot of quartz mining. Once I had all the quartz, I replaced all the dirt walls with quartz blocks. On day 96, I realized that I still hadn't made a couple of things on the new item list, so I went ahead and did that after breeding the sniffers again. I started off by putting the eye armor trim on my chest plate since I thought it was the best looking one. Now realistically, you want to duplicate trims before using them, but I really didn't have time to mine for more diamonds, so here we are. And I gotta say, this trim update is beyond snazzy. I mean, the combinations you can do, I just can't imagine. It's gotta be awesome. After the trim, I made a chiseled bookshelf, which I put in my work area. Later that night, I made the decorated pot, which was honestly pretty awesome, and I made sure to craft it in a way where I could hide the plain sides up against other blocks. The last thing I did was making hanging signs, which were honestly really expensive, but I did place one in the archway with some super sly subliminal messaging. The next morning, I was hopeful to get at least 1 torchflower seed so I could breed the sniffers, but was instead given 3 pitcher pods, so I went ahead and continued making our little wall here on our farm. Since we still needed both of the new plants for our list, I went ahead and bone mealed a torchflower and picked up one of the pitcher pods. Having both of these officially completes the list, so that goal is now complete. With my new plants, I decided to put them in the ponds. Once they were in, I felt that the random floating dirt didn't look great, so I made some quartz pillar type things, which looked way better. I still needed 1 more torchflower for the ponds and thankfully got a seed from my little army of sniffers. The final touch of the pillars was adding stairs to the sides of the dirt. Personally, I actually really like the way it looks, but I don't know, you tell me if I could have done something better. The last thing I did on day 97 was bone mealing the sand, which was the perfect last touch. Now these ponds really felt alive. Day 98 was a whole lot of detailing of the front yard. This started with some terraforming, followed by making paths toward the sniffer area and my simple little farm. I've honestly never utilized this in any of my builds, and I gotta say, it looks amazing. I mean, a little path seems simple, but it just adds some more variety, and I love it. Day 99 and 100, I figured I should add some cherry blossom trees to the island since it was such a big component of the update, so I did exactly that. Then I collected seeds from my sniffers and unfortunately only got 1 torch seed, so no last second breeding for us. And the rest of our time was spent just trying to add life to the outside of the house. Oh, and I added these little light pillars along the path to help prevent mobs from spawning right outside my door. And the last detail I added was these pink petals, which I thought honestly looked really cool, and I like the way you can add variety by adding only like a certain amount of petals per block. Really cool. But there we have it, 100 days in the new 1.20 update where we actually completed just about every goal. If you made it this far, I just want to say thank you so much for making it. Well, this far. It really means a lot to me. I know it's been a while since I've posted, but I got another one I have already finished recording, so that'll be out much sooner. If you'd be so kind to drop a like and subscribe, that would be awesome. If not, that's cool. Most importantly though, stay safe out there. We live in a crazy time, okay? So just enjoy life, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.